My children left me dying in a hospital hallway. Now they want me to give them $900,000. Welcome to tonight's story. Before we begin, if you enjoy dramatic fiction and family tales, please subscribe to the channel for more stories like this one. Now let's dive in. Marcus Chen sat in his modest apartment, staring at the embossed invitation that had arrived that morning. His daughter Victoria wanted to meet for dinner at Aurelio's, the most expensive restaurant in the city. The last time they'd spoken was 8 months ago, and that conversation had ended with her hanging up on him. He turned the heavy cardstock over in his weathered hands. Hands that had built furniture for 40 years, hands that had put 3 children through college, hands that now trembled slightly from age and exhaustion. The invitation specified 8 o'clock on Friday. No explanation, just the time and place. Marcus knew his children well enough to recognize a setup when he saw one. They didn't invite him to expensive dinners out of love. They invited him when they wanted something. But curiosity got the better of him, and perhaps a small desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. Friday arrived cold and gray. Marcus put on his best suit, the navy one he'd worn to his wife Elena's funeral 2 years ago. It still fit, though it hung a bit looser on his frame now. He'd lost weight since Elena passed. Food didn't taste the same when you ate alone. The restaurant was everything Marcus expected: dim lighting, hushed conversations, and prices that made his carpenter's sensibility wince. Victoria was already seated when he arrived, and she wasn't alone. His son Derek sat beside her, along with Derek's wife Amanda. "Dad, you made it," Victoria said, standing to give him a brief, awkward hug that felt more like a business greeting than familial affection. She was dressed in designer clothes, her hair perfectly styled, wearing jewelry that probably cost more than his monthly pension. Derek nodded from his seat. "Good to see you, Pop." Marcus sat down slowly, feeling the weight of 3 pairs of eyes assessing him. A waiter appeared immediately, offering wine recommendations that Victoria accepted without asking Marcus's preference. She ordered a bottle that cost $200. "So," Marcus said, once the wine was poured, "what's the occasion? You don't usually invite your old man to places like this." Victoria exchanged a glance with Derek. It was the kind of silent communication Marcus had seen 1,000 times before, the way his children had always conspired together, leaving him on the outside. "Dad, we wanted to talk to you about your future," Victoria began, her voice taking on that careful tone people use when they think they're speaking to someone who can't understand complex ideas. "Derek and I have been worried about you living alone in that big house. You're 73 now. That's a lot of stairs to manage. A lot of maintenance." "I manage fine," Marcus said, though in truth the house did feel overwhelming sometimes. But it was his house. The house where he'd raised his children. The house where Elena had planted roses in the garden every spring. "We know you think you do," Amanda interjected. "But you're not getting any younger. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one finds you for days?" Marcus felt his jaw tighten. "I have neighbors. I have friends at the senior center." "Dad, be realistic," Derek said, leaning forward. "The house is too much for you. We think it's time to consider selling it and moving into a retirement community. Somewhere with medical staff on site, activities, other people your age." There it was. The real reason for the dinner. They wanted him to sell the house. The house he'd built equity in for 45 years. The house that was paid off and worth at least $800,000 in the current market. "I'm not selling my home," Marcus said quietly. Victoria sighed dramatically. "This is exactly what we were afraid of. Dad, you're being stubborn and irrational. We're trying to help you. Help me, or help yourselves." The words came out before Marcus could stop them. The table went silent. Derek's face flushed red. "That's not fair. Isn't it? You want me to sell the house, move into some facility, and then what happens to the money from the sale? Let me guess, you want to help me manage it by putting it in some kind of trust you control?" Victoria set down her wine glass with more force than necessary. We are trying to protect you from making bad financial decisions. Your old dad? Your judgment isn't what it used to be. Something cold settled in Marcus's chest. He looked at his daughter, really looked at her, and wondered when she had become this person. The little girl who used to help him in his workshop, carefully sanding wood until it was smooth, had transformed into this calculating stranger. My judgment is fine, Marcus said. Fine enough to see what this dinner is really about. Dad, please, Derek tried. We just want what's best for you. Marcus stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the expensive floor. What's best for me is living in my own home, making my own decisions, and not being treated like a senile child by my own children. He pulled out his wallet and placed 3 $20 bills on the table. That should cover my water. As he walked toward the exit, he heard Victoria's voice, no longer careful or measured. This is why we need to take legal action. He's completely unreasonable. Legal action. The words followed Marcus out into the cold night air. The envelope arrived by courier 10 days later. Marcus signed for it with a sense of dread, knowing before he opened it what he would find inside. He was right. Petition for guardianship and conservatorship. His children were suing him for control of his life. He read through the legal documents with shaking hands. They claimed he was suffering from dementia, that he couldn't manage his finances, that he was a danger to himself. They had statements from neighbors he barely knew, claiming they'd seen him looking confused or disoriented. They had a report from a doctor he'd never met. Marcus sat at his kitchen table for a long time, staring at the papers. This was his reward for 40 years of providing for his family. This was what he got for sacrificing vacations and new cars so his children could have college educations and wedding funds. He called the only person he trusted, Raymond Park, his attorney and friend for 30 years. Raymond had helped him when he started his furniture business. He'd drawn up the will after Elena died. Marcus, I was hoping you'd call, Raymond said when he answered. I heard through the courthouse grapevine that something was filed against you. Can they do this, Ray? Can they really take everything from me? Come to my office tomorrow morning. Bring the documents. We're going to fight this. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He walked through his house, touching the banister he'd installed himself, running his hands along the kitchen counters he'd built for Elena, standing in the doorway of each of his children's old bedrooms. Victoria's room still had the bookshelf he'd made for her 16th birthday. Derek's room had the window seat where he used to read comic books. When had it all gone wrong? When had his children stopped seeing him as their father and started seeing him as an obstacle to their inheritance? The next morning, Raymond spread the documents across his desk and read them carefully, his expression growing darker with each page. This is aggressive, he finally said. They're not just asking for financial conservatorship. They want full guardianship, which means they'd control where you live, your medical decisions, everything. Can we stop them? Raymond pulled off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. Marcus, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Have you been having any memory issues? Any confusion or disorientation? No, Marcus said firmly. I'm 73, Ray. Sometimes I forget where I put my keys or what I had for breakfast. But I know what day it is. I know who the president is. I can balance my checkbook and manage my bills. My mind is fine. Then we have a case. But Marcus, this is going to get ugly. They've hired a good lawyer, and they're clearly prepared to drag this out. I don't care how ugly it gets. I'm not letting them do this to me. Raymond smiled grimly. Good. Because we're going to need that fire. Raymond hired an investigator, a sharp woman named Lisa Torres who specialized in financial fraud cases. Her job was simple: find out why Marcus's children were really doing this. It took her less than a week. Your daughter Victoria is in serious financial trouble, Lisa reported, sitting in Raymond's office with Marcus. She's maxed out 4 credit cards, taken out 2 personal loans, and she's 3 months behind on her mortgage. Total debt, approximately $220,000. Marcus felt sick. How? She has a good job. Her husband makes decent money. Lifestyle inflation, Lisa said bluntly. Designer clothes, luxury vacations, private school for the kids. They're living beyond their means and have been for years. She needs a cash infusion fast, or she's going to lose her house. And Derek? Lisa pulled out another file. Derek's in a different kind of trouble. He invested heavily in a business venture with some partners. The business failed. His partners are suing him for mismanagement of funds. He needs at least $300,000 for legal fees and potential settlement costs. Marcus stared at the reports. His children were drowning in debt, and they'd decided their life raft would be his house. There's more, Lisa said. I found something interesting in the medical report they submitted. The doctor who supposedly examined you and diagnosed you with dementia? Dr. Patricia Huang? She doesn't exist. What? The medical license number on the report belongs to a Dr. Patricia Huang who practices in Oregon and specializes in pediatrics. She's never set foot in this state. The signature is forged, and the report is completely fabricated. Raymond leaned forward. Are you certain? 100%. I've already contacted Dr. Huang in Oregon. She's never heard of Marcus Chen and certainly never evaluated him. She's considering filing her own complaint about identity theft. Marcus felt the world tilt. They forged a medical document? That's illegal, isn't it? It's fraud, Raymond said quietly. It's perjury. If we present this evidence to the court, your children won't just lose the case. They could face criminal charges. The room fell silent. Marcus thought about Victoria as a little girl, bringing him drawings she'd made at school. He thought about Derek learning to ride a bike, how proud he'd been the first time he made it down the driveway without training wheels. What do you want to do, Marcus? Raymond asked. We could end this right now. File a criminal complaint, have them arrested. The guardianship petition would be dismissed immediately. Marcus stood and walked to the window. Outside, people walked by going about their normal lives, unaware of the battle being waged in this office. I want to teach them a lesson they'll never forget, he finally said. But I don't want them in prison. Despite everything, they're still my children. Then what do you propose? Marcus turned back to face them. Set up a meeting. Tell them I've decided to cooperate. Tell them I'm willing to discuss their concerns. Let them think they've won. Raymond smiled. And then? And then I show them exactly what they're about to lose. The meeting was scheduled for the following Tuesday at Raymond's office. Victoria and Derek arrived dressed for victory, confident smiles on their faces. They brought their attorney, a slick young man named Jason Reeves who carried a briefcase that probably cost more than Marcus's monthly pension. Mr. Chen, Reeves said, extending his hand. Thank you for agreeing to meet. I think we can reach a reasonable resolution today that will benefit everyone. Marcus shook his hand but said nothing. He sat down next to Raymond, keeping his expression neutral. My clients are very concerned about you, Reeves continued, pulling out documents. They simply want to ensure you're properly cared for in your golden years. They're proposing a very generous arrangement where you would move into Sunrise Manor, one of the finest assisted living facilities in the state, while they manage the sale of your property and invest the proceeds conservatively for your benefit. How thoughtful, Marcus said dryly. Victoria leaned forward. Dad, please try to understand. We love you. We just want to make sure you're safe and that your money lasts. My money, Marcus repeated. Let's talk about money, shall we? He nodded to Raymond, who pulled out a folder and slid it across the table. These are the financial records we've compiled. Feel free to look them over. Derek opened the folder, and Marcus watched the color drain from his son's face. Victoria grabbed the papers from her brother, scanning them quickly. Her hands started to shake. Where did you get these? She whispered. Financial records are surprisingly easy to access when you know where to look, Raymond said mildly. That's your credit card statement, Victoria. showing $220,000 in debt. And that's Derek's notice of lawsuit from his former business partners. Reeves grabbed the documents. His confident expression crumbled as he read. Now, Marcus said, his voice cold, let's discuss the medical evaluation you submitted to the court. The one from Dr. Patricia Huang. Victoria's eyes went wide. Derek slumped in his chair. Dr. Huang is a pediatrician in Oregon. Raymond continued. She's never met my client and certainly never diagnosed him with dementia. The report you submitted is a forgery. That's fraud, perjury, and identity theft. Shall I continue? Reeves stood up abruptly. I need to consult with my clients privately. Sit down, counselor, Raymond said sharply. We're not done. Reeves slowly sank back into his chair. Marcus looked at his children. Victoria was crying, mascara running down her cheeks. Derek had his head in his hands. I raised you better than this, Marcus said quietly. I taught you the value of honesty, of hard work, of taking responsibility for your own mistakes. But somewhere along the way, you decided those lessons didn't apply to you. Dad, please, Victoria sobbed. We were desperate. The banks were going to foreclose. We didn't know what else to do. So you decided to steal from your father? To have me declared incompetent and locked away so you could take everything I spent a lifetime building? We weren't going to lock you away. Derek protested weakly. Sunrise Manor is nice. You would have been comfortable. While you sold my house, spent my money, and visited once a month out of obligation? Marcus stood up. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to withdraw this petition immediately. You're going to sign a statement admitting the medical report was fraudulent. And you're going to figure out your financial problems on your own, like adults. And if we refuse? Reeves asked, though his voice had lost all its confidence. Then I file criminal charges. Raymond said. Fraud carries a penalty of up to 5 years in prison. Perjury adds another 5. Identity theft is another few years on top of that. Your clients would be looking at substantial prison time. Victoria let out a wail. Derek just stared at the table. However, Marcus continued, if you do exactly what I've asked, I'll agree not to prosecute. You'll lose the lawsuit, and you'll lose your inheritance, but you'll keep your freedom. Our inheritance? Victoria's head snapped up. Marcus pulled out another document. This is my new will, executed yesterday. Upon my death, my entire estate will be donated to charity. You'll get nothing. The words hung in the air like a pronouncement of judgment. Dad, you can't do this, Derek said desperately. We're your children. That money should go to your family. Family, Marcus repeated bitterly. You stopped being my family the moment you decided I was worth more to you dead than alive. Or at least incompetent and locked away. He picked up his coat and walked toward the door. Before leaving, he turned back one last time. I have a meeting with a realtor tomorrow. I'm selling the house after all. But the money won't go to you. I'm going to travel. I'm going to see the world Elena and I never got to see because we were too busy providing for our children. And when I'm gone, every penny will go to organizations that actually help people instead of exploiting them. He walked out, leaving his children sobbing at the conference table. 6 months later, Marcus sat on a beach in Portugal, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. His house had sold for $900,000, more than he'd expected. After paying off the few bills he had and setting aside a comfortable fund for his remaining years, he had more money than he needed. The divorce from his children was complete. They'd withdrawn the petition. They'd signed the admission of fraud. And in return, he'd kept his word and hadn't pressed charges. They were strangers to him now, and he was surprisingly at peace with that. His phone buzzed with a message. It was from Raymond. The final paperwork is done. Your estate is settled. Everything goes to the scholarship fund when the time comes. Marcus had established a fund for children from low-income families who wanted to learn trades, carpentry, plumbing, electrical work. Real skills that couldn't be taken away. He named it the Elena Chin Memorial Scholarship, after the woman who had taught him the true meaning of family. She hadn't been related to him by blood. Elena had been his second wife, the woman he married after his first marriage fell apart. She'd brought her warmth and her wisdom into his life when he needed it most. She'd shown him that family was about choice, about showing up, about love that wasn't conditional. His biological children had his DNA, but they'd never had his values. Maybe that was his failure as a father. Or maybe some people were just determined to learn things the hard way. A young couple walked past him on the beach, laughing and chasing waves. They reminded him of himself and Elena 40 years ago. Full of hope and dreams, believing the world was fundamentally good. Marcus still believed the world could be good. You just had to be careful about who you let into yours. He stood up, brushing sand from his pants, and walked back toward his rented villa. Tomorrow he'd explore the local markets. Next week, he'd take a cooking class. Next month, who knew? For the first time in 2 years, since Elena's death, Marcus Chin felt truly alive. And he'd learned the most valuable lesson of his 73 years. Sometimes the family you choose is worth more than the family you're born into. Sometimes the best inheritance you can leave is the example of a life well lived on your own terms. Sometimes freedom is worth more than any amount of money. And sometimes saying goodbye is the kindest thing you can do, both for yourself and for the people who've forgotten how to value you. If you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to our channel for more dramatic fiction. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know what kind of stories you'd like to see next. Thank you for watching.